Have you ever purchased a sewing pattern and been like, now what? Like, how do I read this? Don't stress. I'm going to teach you all my tips and tricks. Before you buy any sewing pattern, you need to know your measurements, or at the very least, you need to know your largest measurement. Whatever it is that you're making, whatever that largest measurement is. So let's pretend you're at the store, you have your sizes written down, and now you're sitting here and you're looking at this. What does this all mean? Well, you have your branding, you have your sketch, and you have an example of the dress when it's made out in some sort of fabric. On the side, you have the style number. This is M7965, and the size is actually a tall, okay? And the size range is 14 through 22. So if you are a regular height person, this is okay. You just need to make note that the bodice will be about ½ an inch to an inch longer than a regular size. If you're petite, I do not suggest buying tall. And if you're tall, I do not suggest buying petite because you'll have to do alterations on the length of the garment versus the width. And that can be a little bit more intimidating than this. So when you're purchasing, just do yourself a favor, do tall, regular, or petite based off of your typical shopping sizes. Okay, so then we're going to flip this over and we're going to look at this top flap here, or I'm going to do it like this. That's easier. So even though you're going to purchase, tall, regular, or petite based off of your shopping sizes, my suggestion is that you ignore the size range here, 6 to 22, and instead you're going to focus on the measurements. So once I've determined the size range, the style, we're going to look at the fabric suggestions because maybe you're buying this because you already have fabric in your stash, or maybe you want to make this and you need to know what kind of fabrics to purchase for it. And what does all of this say? So right here we have, again, our style number, and then we have a description of what comes in this package. So here is a close-fitting jacket and a robe. So the jacket is A, as we can see down here on our little sketch, and our robe, which is here, B, and the little sketch down here. And these are called technical drawings, and these are called a fashion flat or a fashion sketch. So your technical drawing will show you really your seam lines and sort of the proportion much better than a fashion sketch will. So we have a close-fitting jacket, a robe, and we have it a lined and underlined bodice. We have shoulder seams that roll to the back. We have a front hook and eye closure, boning, 2-piece sleeves, and contrast lace trim. We have contrast ruffles for our number A and number B, and we also have an attached pleated skirt and self-pleated trim. The skirt is not included. You have to see pattern 7916 for the skirt that goes underneath. So again, looking at this fashion sketch and this sketch here, this underskirt is not included in this pattern. Okay, so that's basically telling you what's in this packet. And that's good to know, right? Because if you bought this and you thought there was a skirt and you didn't read this, it would be like, well, where's my skirt? And I just realized I didn't explain what A5 and E5 mean. A5 and E5 just basically refer to the different size ranges, okay? And this right here is an E5, 14 to 22, E5, 14 to 22. All right, so now we're gonna get down to our suggested fabrics. So this one is suggesting wool blends, medium weight home decorating fabrics. So you can think of like curtains or maybe a lightweight brocade that you would use on a sofa cushion, and twill. So you can use a contrast as well, silk or taffeta. You can also do double edge scallop lacing, cottons, cotton blends, interfacing, and sewn interfacing is what's needed there. So that is going to give you a list of things to purchase, but I always like to take this with a grain of salt. Choosing fabric is one of my favorite things to do for designs. I'm actually really good at it. I was a fabric swatcher for a very long time in New York. But I would disagree, and I would say perhaps a wool or a wool blend is not really the way I want to go with this. If I was going to do a wool blend, maybe like a wool cotton or a wool linen, something a little bit more lightweight, nothing heavy, like nothing like a man's wool jacket vibe, okay? That is not a good descriptor, but at least we have a little bit of a shopping list. I will touch base on fabrics and how to choose fabrics for your designs in another video, but just note that this here is a little fabric suggestion blurb. Now, what is this graph? This is sort of the most important graph. It's going to tell you how much yardage you need to buy based off of the size that you're going to pick. So let's say that in real life you wear a size 8 dress, but your measurements actually are closer to a size 14. That's why I said ignore the size range and go off of your measurements. Okay, so with this pattern, you're a size 14. Now you're going to go over here to your fabric yardage and you're going to look at row 14, and that is going to tell you how much yardage you want to buy. And it's in this moment that we come across the first phrase that to me stands out as a little strange. Contrast 1, contrast 2. Well, 1A and 2A. What does that mean? Okay, well, we're going to look really closely at our pattern here. And what that's referring to is the trim on the neckline and the trim on the sleeves. So sometimes this could say trim, piping, binding, ruffles, accoutrements, contrast. Here we see it as contrast. And once you go into the actual pattern directions, which we'll show in another video because this is getting pretty long, you're going to see contrast, and then you see the pattern pieces, and then it says scallop, selvages, fold. So this gives you a clue to say, oh, we're talking about the ruffles here and the decorative elements. Now, once we've determined our size or size range and the amount of fabric it would take to make our garment, we would then pick the fabric and then purchase the yardage that we need. Now, this is my suggestion. If it says 1 3/8, get 2 yards. Always err on the side of caution. Get yourself a 1/4 to a 1/2 yard more, sometimes a yard or 2 more, depending on what you're doing, what kind of fabric it is, if there's a pattern or a print. Again, we'll talk about fabrics in another video. But this is sort of your guide on how much yardage you're going to want to buy. And since, let's say you're size 14 on this, I would purchase in this size range, just making sure that I would have enough fabric for all the things I would want to do. The next thing you're going to take a look at is all of the notions. And notions are basically the things that help you put the thing together. So this says you need some polyester boning, says you need hooks and eye pairs. You're going to need 12 of them. And maybe you want to purchase a bum roll because this is a historical pattern. We're just going to ignore that though. Now, this is the finished garment measurements. I personally never pay attention to this because this becomes a total moot point once you start making sure that this fits to you. Because rarely ever do we just make something out of a package and it fits perfectly. So I would say just ignore that. Don't worry about it. And then on this side, it will be in a different language. So it's not as intimidating when you break it down like that. Okay, so that's how you read all of the important information on a sewing pattern packet. And in the next video, I'm going to teach you guys how to read the sewing instructions, how to place your fabric, and what the heck all of this means. Yay! I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, like, comment, follow, do the whole shebang. And I will be posting the next video soon. All right. Happy sewing!